Hey guys, welcome back to Callie and Bean's Books. I'm Brittany, and this is another episode of Brittany's Book Corner. So as you guys know, this month we've been doing our fall time readathon, and I've had a slow start. I kind of blame myself, but I also blame my book choices. I'm breaking some rules. I originally started reading The Candle and the Flame, and I just really couldn't get into it. I probably spent 3 days trying to read it, and I couldn't get myself into the story at all. It started off really slow, and it just wasn't the pace that I'm used to, and I felt myself kind of diving into a reading slump. So I was like, you know what, I can't do it. I'm not going to force myself to read this book, because if I force myself to read, then it's just not going to work. Then I'm not going to complete the readathon at all, and I didn't want to do that, so I put the book down. It's still on my TBR shelf, so I'm hoping to get to it maybe later this year when I can just focus on reading and not focus on reading a certain amount of books. So here it is. Right here. It's just after my full readathon TBR, so I'm going to revisit a book out of my comfort zone, or maybe I just won't hit that prompt this month. We'll see. So I moved on to Serpent and Dove, and I am just over halfway done. I'm loving this book. I love the story, the characters. It's been a roller coaster reading it. Starting it off, it was pretty fast paced. Those are the books I really like, when we just kind of dive into the action, dive into the plot right away. That's something that I really enjoy out of a book. I don't really like a lot of info dumping or pages of detail that just don't really go anywhere. I prefer, the story being set up very vividly and being like, all right, we're jumping right into it. So that's why I'm really loving Serpent and Dove. The banter between the characters, it's just really enjoyable. I can picture the scenes, and it's just really everything I look for in a book. I'm really liking the idea of the enemies to lovers. It's going on. It's real strong. I don't want to really give too much away, just because I also haven't finished. So there's really no final thoughts I have, obviously, because I haven't finished it. But I have just over 200 pages left, and I can't wait to see where the rest of the story goes. Hey guys, time for an update. So last week I finished Serpent and Dove. I absolutely loved this book. I loved everything about it. I shouldn't say that. I didn't like the pacing. I felt like there were some points where it was going by really quickly, and then nothing would happen, but it was written that there were like 3 days that went by. It was just very weird. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. I loved the way that the reveal was between the secrets, and that it was authentic. It wasn't like, oh, okay, no big deal. It was actually like, no, this is a big deal for the characters. And it was hurtful, some of the things that were said, but the events that played out towards the ending were done absolutely perfectly. It did wrap up really nicely, but I'm still really excited that there is a sequel. I feel like there's going to be a lot more answers and more things introduced in the second one when it comes to the different forms of magic. And I won't give anything away, but there's actually another huge reveal that they're probably going to go into a little bit more, which I'm really excited about. So overall, I gave Serpent and Dove a 4 out of 5. Again, the only thing I really didn't like was some of the pacing was off, but otherwise I loved the characters. I loved the storyline, and I actually really enjoyed some of the historical fiction that was in it too when it comes to the old witch hunts. It was really nice and really well done. So right after Serpent and Dove, I jumped into Now Entering Adamsville by Francesca Zappia. I'm really disappointed in this book, guys. I absolutely loved Eliza and her monsters, and I was really looking forward to reading this book. However, it fell flat. So it's about a girl named Zora, and she has a unique trait where she can see ghosts. And in Adamsville, it's kind of like a haunted town, so there are ghosts everywhere. It's actually a tourist town where people actually come ghost hunt and look into the old ways of the town. There's a mine and a couple of haunted houses, and there's also a a history of a murder where it was also an arsonist. And that comes into play because there are these creatures called fire starters that take the form of humans and then kill and then eat the souls of the ghosts, which is actually really interesting and really unique. And Zora is actually someone that hunts these creatures. And she learned everything from her mother, who disappeared 5 years ago. So it's a really unique story, and I really enjoyed it. The characters are amazing. I thought the characters were really well written. You're actually set up to not necessarily like the main character, which I felt was really interesting. You know who the villain is, but you don't know why he's the villain, if that makes sense. About halfway through the story, the ending. If you read it knowing it's a standalone, you're going to be disappointed in the ending. However, if we had a sequel, I wouldn't be as disappointed. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to get a lot of answers. But the end, there were way more questions than answers, and there wasn't a real big aha moment where it's like, oh, okay, the story wrapped up really nicely. There was a lot of questions that were left unanswered, and I'm a little disappointed in that. Overall, I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5, mostly because I really liked the unique plot of the story, where it was, supernatural, but it wasn't necessarily just around the ghosts. Some of the reveals were really nice, and it kind of brought the family together more, which was really kind of nice, because sometimes if it's really nice because sometimes if characters have a falling out with a family member, it just kind of stays that way, but it felt like the sisters were actually getting back to a really nice relationship, which I really enjoyed, because I like to think that as I'm getting older, I'm getting closer with my little sister. But it also felt like a lot of the characters weren't acting their age, which was brought up in some of the reviews I read on Goodreads, that the characters are written very childlike, and I actually kind of agree with that, where the big sister is 25. Reading this as a 25-year-old, I can't really connect with the 25-year-old sister. I felt like she was still acting like she was maybe 19, and Zora, who's the main character, she's 17, but acts older than her age, which is okay because of her abilities, but everyone else just seemed very childish, which was kind of disappointing, because there's some not necessarily adult themes, but when I was reading it, I felt like it should be a little bit more intense, and it wasn't. There was a couple of intense parts, don't get me wrong, but there was also, it was like, oh, okay, all okay in the end, even though there was still a lot missing. So overall, it's a good book, it's a good story. It's just, if you're one that really likes a nice bow at the end of the story where everything wraps up nicely, you probably won't enjoy this book. Next, I jumped into 13 Minutes by Sarah Pinbough, which follows Natasha, who is the most popular girl in school, and it starts off with being revived from drowning, and she was dead for 13 minutes. And then Becca, who is Natasha's old friend, but they recently had a falling out, so they're no longer in good graces with each other, I suppose. And Natasha is going through trying to figure out what happened to her, because when she wakes up in the hospital, she doesn't remember anything. And Becca comes into play because she's just like, I feel bad, and she wants to be back in Natasha's good graces. And then the main two and Natasha's best friends are the main suspects of why Natasha ended up in the frozen lake to begin with. So it follows them, it's like a dual perspective, where when we have Natasha's point of view, it's first person, but when we're reading about Becca, it's in third person. So it's really interesting, the perspectives we're getting as the characters are trying to figure out what happened to Natasha. And then the reveal happens, and you're like, oh yeah, totally. You can kind of see where it's going, who did it, and all of the clues point to the obvious, and it's great. And you think, okay, everything's done. And then it's not. And it's really interesting because I was kind of expecting the ending, but at the same time, it threw me through a loop. So it's more of a thriller, not necessarily a mystery, because you kind of solve the mystery right away. And then the reveal is where the thrilling part comes into play. And it's set up where it reminds me of if Mean Girls met Pretty Little Liars. However, as much as I enjoyed the story, I felt like I've watched it or read it before, where you kind of see the bullying gone wrong and what happens with it. I can't put my finger on where I've watched it before, but I loved, NCIS growing up, Law and Order, and Pretty Little Liars and all of that. So it fell a little flat, but I enjoyed it in the end. Overall, I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. I was really enjoying the thrill of it. Kind of saw the reveals coming, and where it fell flat was kind of the romance that was in there. I just didn't feel like it was needed, and it was a little more like, this isn't really a romance. Where is this going? So, yeah, if you're looking for a nice thriller for October and you have some time, maybe this will be one that you can check out. But overall, you'll probably see everything coming. So, most recent book that I finished is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. A lot of people don't like this book. I really enjoyed it. So, it's about 4 students that are in detention with the 5th student that has died, and it's revolving around trying to figure out who killed him, why he died, all these things. And each of them have different reasons on why it could be them, which, it's kind of one of those, it seems very cliche, and everyone each has their cliche characters. It starts off very Breakfast Club-like with a kid dying. So you're like, okay, kind of see where this is going to go. I wasn't surprised necessarily by the reveal. It did keep me guessing. At one point you think one of and I'm pointing to the characters that I'm assuming are the main characters on the front cover, you kind of think that one of them may have done it, but then the next part is no, they couldn't have. So you kind of go back and forth between, okay, did one of these students do it, or was it the teacher, was it another outside student? And it's really interesting the way it's all revealed. I won't give anything away with the different secrets because each of them have their own secrets. Some are more obvious than others. And I really enjoyed how the author set up each of the different reveals. One main thing that's talked about is the different perspectives. So you follow each of the characters. It's kind of split up per chapter. I know Callie didn't like that, kind of calling her out on that, but I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really nice kind of seeing that it was following the different characters as they were getting questioned by police, as they were talking to their lawyers, as they were talking with each other, and kind of seeing how they were thinking. I really enjoyed it. It might have been a little overdone in some cases. Maybe if it was done, split chapter per chapter, not in the middle of the chapter splitting the perspectives. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the sequel. It does tie up all in the end. I didn't really think it needed a sequel when I finished it today. But at the same time, I'm still going to read the sequel because I enjoyed this book. I'm giving this probably a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the reveal. Even though I was kind of like, really? But at the same time, I was like, okay, I can dig it. That is my update for today. I started Harry Potter, so I'm kind of halfway done with my TBR. I'm feeling really confident on finishing this up. I have a couple of prompts left, and so far about 3 books. So until next time.
I'm also in the back, so that's kind of how it works.
Hello, friends. Where are we going, friends?
Barnes and Noble!
Why is that?
Because it's release day.
We have no self-control.
No, that's the main reason. We have no self-control. We're spending the day together, and we figured after filming, what better time to then go to Barnes and Noble?
Because of course we need more books.
There is no such thing as too many books. None.
True. True.
True fact.
Yes. So we'll be vlogging our trip down, as well as running around the store like mad women, because that's what we do.
But not running, because they will yell at us if we start running.
That's fair.
I used to work there.
That's true. Oh boy.
Run.
Oh god, we're turning. All right.
No running and no climbing up the banister on the escalator.
You can't control me!
Watch me!
This video has turned out of control. Like us.
Loud and unhappy.
How many wizards serve on the Wizengamot?
Wizengamot? 100.
Nope, 50.
What? Of us getting food. So we were on adventures. We went to Barnes & Noble, and now we're getting food. I feel like a real vlogger. There's Kelly. You're not seeing my face this time. Look at the pretty artwork. It's so pretty. Hey guys. Ready for another update? As you can tell, I am not at my apartment. I'm at Callie's. So I finished 3 more books, and I'm officially done with my TBR for the month. I'm feeling pretty proud of myself. I also want to give a nice shout out to Audible, because they helped me get through 2 of the books in 2 days. So here I am, all done with my books. So after my mystery kick, I reread Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling and gave it a 5-star. I'm not really going to talk about Harry Potter much just because we actually have our reread and movie rewatch video coming out soon, so we're actually going to talk about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets then. After that, I binge read As Old as Time by Liz Braswell. I gave this book a 4-star. It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, which is my favorite Disney fairy tale. I say fairy tale because Lilo and Stitch is my favorite Disney movie. Haha, loophole. So in this, we follow the what if that if the sorceress is Belle's mom. We read how that what if unfurls a couple of other things, and it's actually really good. I was pleasantly surprised. The ending is the only thing that I wasn't too keen on, I guess. It wasn't the best ending to a book. I did enjoy it. It gave it more of a realistic, not sugarcoating everything, being like, oh, magic fixes everything. It didn't, and I actually kind of liked it. So I do recommend this book if you're looking for it. So, the last book I read was The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. This is our book of the month, so the 3 of us are reading this, and we'll do a whole synopsis and a whole spoilery review in a couple weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Overall, I gave The Hazelwood a 3.5 star. I did enjoy it for the most part. There's some twists on some old fairy tales in a way, and it just kind of gives a dark edge to the ideas of fairy tales. So like I said, I finished my TBR for our readathon, and I'm going to kind of go in order based on my least favorite books and what prompts they covered. So my least favorite book, unfortunately, from the readathon was Now Entering Adamsville by Francesca Zappia. This one I counted for spooky cover. It's very spooky to me. As well as out of comfort zone book, as well as the woodsy environment. Next, the group book, The Hazelwood, 3.5 stars. So for a book that scares me and read a 13th book, I read 13 Minutes by Sarah Pinbough, and I gave this book a 4-star. For a book that BookTube hates and my mystery and thriller, I read One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, and I also gave this book a 4-star. So for my retelling, I read As Old as Time by Liz Braswell, and again, I gave this a 4-star. And then for my book with witches, I read Serpent and Dove by Shelby McMarin. I gave this a 4.5 star, and later in November, Callie and I will be doing a joint review of this book, so look out for that. And then last, I did reread a book and read a sequel with red, orange, and yellow on the cover. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. And this is also the book I read a hot beverage with. I read and drank apple cider. Actually, most of the books I was reading and drinking something. Most of the time I read in the morning and have my coffee, but this is the only one I remembered to actually count. That is everything. I'm pretty proud of myself. I was really worried that I actually wouldn't get through our readathon. I was like, you know, I'm not going to be able to do this, especially after my poor start with Candle in the Flame, but here I am. I did it. Yay, me. Some bonus points for myself too was One of Us is Lying, The Hazelwood, and Now Entering Adamsville along with Chamber of Secrets. They all take place in fall, so there's some 4 extra bonus points for me as well. And a bonus point because Harry Potter has all 3 colors, like I pointed out. So that's everything for my October Brittany's Book Corner. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And be sure to follow us on Instagram. Our joint account as well as individual handles will be linked below, as well as our Goodreads accounts. Until next time, guys.